It's been way too long since Connor Letourneau's been on this program. Dude, it's great to see you. We haven't talked since the World Championship, my man, but you've had a lot going on. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things. There's Summer League action and players to break down. The Kevin Durant trade thing continues heating up, far from being complete or true, but you and I are going to break that down and so much more. It's summer, baby, and this is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts on every platform. You can follow Connor Letourneau on Twitter at CON_CHRON. He is an NBA and Warriors enterprise reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle. Dude, congratulations. You're engaged. You've had one hell of a month since the Warriors won the World Championship. How have you been, my man, before we get things going?
I've been good, man. I've been really good. Yeah. Obviously still kind of feeling the afterglow of the engagement and all that. And
congrats.
I joke that when you cover the NBA, you have to squeeze all your life things into like a pretty short period of time in the off season. And so, once the finals were over, I'm like, okay, it's time now. Let's do this. So we went to Hawaii, did it on the top of Mauna Kea. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the biggest mountain on the Big Island.
Wow, you went all the way up there. So that explains why in the picture you two look freezing. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, no, we went with like a guided tour and they gave us big parkas and it was an amazing place to do. It was at sunset, overlooking the clouds. It was pretty amazing. But I'm in Vegas right now. I've been here the past few days. I'm happy to be back in Warriors mode a little bit. It feels like every year the Summer League gets bigger and bigger. They actually had to move the Warriors game the other night from Cox Pavilion, the smaller gym, the auxiliary gym, to like the big arena because the Warriors have so many fans that it was the only way that they could accommodate it. So they pushed back the game and moved it to the bigger arena. So that that would have never been an issue in the past just because there weren't that many people coming to Summer League in general. But it's a thing now. It's an event and it's fun. And I've always been really into, as you know, I'm really into the G League. I'm really into like young guys, prospects, the draft. And so I always like the Summer League because you get to see those guys for the first time and get to know them. And so it's been fun.
No, absolutely, dude. I did it in 2015. I went to one game as a fan and the place was damn near empty. And I just sat back and I think I had a beer and just watched the game and just gambled and just went on my way. But now it's like next year I feel like I'm gonna have to go. I chose not to this year just because, dude, this pandemic's still going on, man. I'm not gonna put myself in situations unless I have to. But you're right, dude. It's the place to schmooze and to network. And so let's talk about the Warriors, man. I mean, we're going to talk about the Durant thing just because every day it heats up more and more. I've been saying this for weeks now that all signs are pointing to Durant coming back to the Warriors. I feel like nothing else this offseason makes sense outside of the Warriors brass actually having faith in this young core being the primary part of their depth. But speaking of this young core, dude, you're there. You've been covering Kuminga, you've been covering Moody and Wiseman. That's really the main pieces we're talking about when we mention the young core. What are your thoughts on them, dude? Do you think they're ready? Like, are they to carry the brunt and to carry the load? Do you think the Warriors need to add free agents on the veteran side? Your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was interesting about the first few days of free agency was it was kind of the ultimate vote of confidence in guys like Kuminga and Moody because by letting guys like Damian Lee and Otto Porter Jr., obviously Gary Payton II, go, you're basically necessitating Moody and Kuminga playing at least 25 minutes a night next season. Like that's basically a requirement now. And I tweeted at the time, that's kind of like a fun silver lining because I want to see a lot of Kuminga. Like, I know it could be up and down and maybe he's not fully ready at times, but he's just so fun. And so I'm personally, I understand the thought process. You need to really develop those key young guys, and so that they're ready when the time comes for them to be faces potentially of the franchise and foundational pieces. Summer League's been interesting. You look at it, Moody's put up really good numbers. He dealt with dehydration. So he hasn't even physically been 100%, but he just at times has looked like a man among boys. And I don't mean.
Well, hold on, Connor. Can I stop? What do you mean dehydration? Like, there's no shortage of water. Why is he suffering from that?
I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't drinking enough water, but he did have severe dehydration.
Wow. Okay.
For it. When I say man among boys, obviously I'm not talking about physically because he's not as physically gifted as Kuminga, but he just looks very savvy. Like he knows how to get his spots. He knows how to find guys. He's kind of like a vet who happens to be 20 years old. And so I have the utmost confidence in him. I think he's going to be completely fine. I mean, you and I came on this pod many times last season. We're like, why the hell is he not playing over?
Yes.
He was better than Damian Lee last season.
And we can say this publicly now, Connor. You were peeved on so many occasions, and I think a lot of people were, that Damian Lee was getting Moody's minutes. And I didn't blame you. I was with you, man.
I don't know the nuances of Lee going to Phoenix. I'm sure Lee, maybe there was part of Lee that wanted to kind of prove himself on a team that didn't have his brother-in-law. I completely respect that and understand that. But I'm sure the Warriors were also like, you know what? We loved you. We appreciated your time here, but like you're taking important minutes away from some important guys. So
right.
I'm happy about that. And I think he's ready. Kuminga, he's so gifted physically that sometimes it just comes down to how much he cares.
Yes, agreed. 100% agree.
The Andrew Wiggins effect a little bit. And you could tell, like, his first game here, he did not give an F. I mean,
no. Yes.
He did not want to be here. I'm sure there was part of him that's like, dude, I was playing big minutes in the regular season. Why? I was playing a little bit in the playoffs. Like, why do I have to come to Summer League?
This is beneath me.
Yes. He definitely approached that first game with that mentality. It was awful. But I'm sure he had some conversations behind the scenes, and he definitely has seemed more dialed in the past couple games. And, he's just so physically gifted that if he wants to get to the rim against these like fringe NBA players, he can. I don't think he's doing too much from it, because it's just going to be so different in an actual NBA environment. But I do feel like he was knocking on the door last year, and it's time for him to be like in a regular rotation role that, he's not fighting for minutes. He doesn't have a short leash. Like he needs to just have the trust and care factor from the bosses to just go out and play 25 minutes a night. And I think that's going to happen. And I think it's going to be a good thing. How I feel about Kuminga. I still think he's a perennial all-star.
Agreed. Same.
He's just so.
And it was encouraging, by the way, to see him like when he needed to actually light it up these last two games. He just was like, all right, I'll give you close to 30 points. And like, it's good to see that he can do it when he needs to, it was reassuring.
Yeah. Anyways. I mean, if you remember, he had a couple really bad G League games last year.
Yeah.
And it was just because he didn't want to be there. It's like, then they talked to him like, hey, we know you don't want to be here, but like, please try. And
try.
And, so.
Yeah. That's funny. And then, and then Wiseman obviously is the third one that a lot of people have had their eyes on him. We'll break that down. There's a lot more to talk about. First, let's give some quick love to Built Bar, a longtime sponsor of this program. I've been relying on them a lot recently because I decided I want to shed like 10, 15 pounds, get my pool body back. And Built Bars are the way to go because one of the biggest struggles for anyone who's trying to lose weight, I think, is avoiding those late night munchies, right? Like if you get hungry and it's harder to sleep if you're hungry. And Built Bars on average, each one only has 140 calories. It only has 4 grams of sugar. Yet because it packs on average 17 grams of protein, and the protein is collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. I feel full after one of these things. I don't feel like I'm gorging. And I'm starting to feel better. I'm stoked on it. So Built Bars are the way to go if you're trying to, you want that healthy snack. They're delicious protein bars covered in 100% real chocolate, but at the same time, they're not bad for you, and they make you feel full. That's what I endorse the most about them. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order at Built.com.
Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. You can follow Connor Letourneau on Twitter at CON_CHRON. He covers the Warriors and the NBA for the San Francisco Chronicle. Been doing so for a long time. Exemplary job, sir, doing all of that. James Wiseman, you just wrote a piece regarding his relationship with Lester Quinones, and a two-part question for you. What's your article entail? I've not read it yet. I'm really sorry, man. I do read all your stuff, but that one came out just recently. And then what are your thoughts on Quinones? They gave him the two-way deal. Kevin Durant yesterday said those two-way deals are flimsy. You could take them away at any point, so it doesn't mean much if you actually give it to a player. Your thoughts on just your summary of your story in terms of that relationship, and your thoughts on both those players.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on Quinones, and I realized, he was in the same recruiting class as Wiseman at Memphis. And so, I sat down with Quinones, and I come to find out, not only were they in the same recruiting class, they were actually roommates at Memphis during basically the one semester that Wiseman spent at Memphis. And as we all know at this point, that was a very tough time in Wiseman's life, with all the eligibility issues, all the national attention that got.
Right.
And they became very close friends. Quinones was very much there for him on a personal level during that period, and they've kept in good touch. And so just kind of like a fun little summer league story, looking at their reunion and what it means to finally be playing together a significant amount of time, because they only got to play 3 games together at Memphis. Now to be able to do that at the NBA level, it's pretty cool. So, just kind of like one of those fun summer league stories, which I'm a big fan of, like seeking out just like random niche things in the summer league. But as far as Quinones as a player, I'm not totally convinced that he'll actually be on the two-way come this season.
Same.
And as Kevin said, those don't mean much. I mean,
yeah.
You remember they signed a guy named Jeff Doughton last year. He almost
I remember that.
He basically didn't play. And then
that's right.
And then they,
yeah.
Then they see Quinndary Weatherspoon on a 10-day, and they're like, oh, never mind. And they put Quinndary on the two-way, and he was much more deserving of that two-way than Doughton was. And if you just look at even just this summer league, it feels like there's probably other guys that are maybe more deserving than Quinones for that two-way spot. I was surprised when they gave Quinones that spot.
Same.
Just because he was not even really considered like much of an NBA prospect. Like he wasn't even on like top 100 prospects list entering the draft. There's about 60 picks in the draft. He wasn't even like considered a top 100 guy. And if you looked at ESPN's like best available list, he's a shooting guard. I looked at, they had like 10 shooting guards listed who weren't drafted on the best available list. He wasn't even on that list. And so there were a ton of other guys that, were higher rated that they could have gone after, but apparently he worked out for them twice. He impressed with his shooting. He shot 39% from 3 each of the past 2 seasons at Memphis. And them, they love those long wings who can shoot. He's like 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan and can shoot, but he wasn't particularly productive at Memphis, and he hasn't really proven he can be an impact guy when he's not making shots. And you look at what he's done in Vegas, he's playing over 20 minutes a game, and he's averaging 1.4 points per game on shooting. And I know it's like a really small sample size. And he was better in the California Classic, but I'm not sure he's a guy who you would feel comfortable even playing spot minutes in an NBA game.
I agree. Don't you? I almost
And
feel like he's better suited.
You want that two-way guy to be someone who can just like eat up some regular season minutes.
Yeah, you're right. And I feel like he's better suited for Santa Cruz. Do you think he's there mostly just to comfort Wiseman to make this whole transition easier for him? Are they that close?
I don't think so. What's interesting is Wiseman told me that the Warriors didn't even talk to him during the pre-draft process about Lester. Like they didn't ask him about Lester or anything. I mean, so if that was really a factor, I would have thought that they would have had a conversation with Wiseman about their relationship, and it doesn't sound like that happened. So I think that Lester was signed on his own merits. I mean, he did work out for them twice, and he impressed in both of those workouts apparently. But you just look at Summer League. Like I'm not convinced Mac McClung is like a legitimate NBA player, but if it was between him and Lester right now, I'd probably rather have him on a two-way. I mean,
Same.
I feel like he brings more to the table. He's more of a point guard. They need another point guard. They don't have a true backup point guard. I mean, they have a bunch of guys who can be secondary ball handlers. I think they're hoping that maybe Rollins can become more of a point guard. But they don't have
DiVincenzo. No.
What?
Is DiVincenzo more of a shooting guard, you're saying? Like
DiVincenzo's more of a shooting guard. Yeah. He's kind of a combo guard, but he's historically been a shooting guard. He can initiate the offense from time to time, but he's not like a point guard. They don't have like a true backup point guard. And that's kind of the role that Chiozza filled last season. He was like the one guy on the roster who was a true backup point guard. Yes,
that's true.
He was not very good, but he could pass and initiate the offense and
handle.
I think
great handles. Yeah,
they'd benefit from another one of those guys. Maybe they signed like a Michael Carter Williams or something to a minimum deal. They still have a few roster spots, so there's different ways to do that. And then as far as the two-way, like right now they have a two-way qualifying offer out to Quinndary Weatherspoon, and he has not signed that because he wants to kind of vet his market, see his options, which I completely understand. He's been on the two-way.
Same.
He's been on a two-way for 3 years.
Let's talk about him, man. Yeah, what go ahead.
If he signed another two-way, he would be the first player in NBA history to be on 4 two-ways.
And that's the last one you can sign, right? You can't do more than 4.
And that's just not something you want attached to your bio.
Correct.
You don't want to be the two-way contract guy.
And Connor, do you agree with me, man? Do you agree with me that I haven't been watching Summer League like religiously, but I've been watching the games and I've been watching Quinndary. Is it Quinndary or Quinndary? I hear you say Quinndary, so I want to get that right.
I think it's Quinndary.
Okay, let's roll with what you're saying right now. Let's say so. I've been watching Weatherspoon. he's killing it. I love what I see, man. His defense is fantastic. He's not making mistakes offensively. I could see him as a part of that 15-man roster as a guaranteed player. It's surprising me a little bit that the Warriors haven't offered that guarantee deal. What do you think's going on there? Like your thoughts? Because I love him.
I think they're kind of just being pragmatic about it. I mean, if you look at how they've approached free agency, they haven't approached it with as much heart or as emotional fervor as maybe they have in the past. They've been borderline ruthless, and I understand. I mean, there's practical realities here. There's financial things to consider, but I really believe they were going to re-sign GP2 in part because he just meant so much to the fabric of that team, and I thought they just emotionally couldn't stomach losing him. But you've seen they've taken a very business-like approach, and I think that it's the same thing with Quinndary, where they're looking at it and they're saying, you know what, you're not going to get any minimum offers from anyone. So, why wouldn't we just bring you back on a two-way? Because we don't have to,
and they can match a deal.
We don't have to put you on a minimum, and they can save a little bit of money that way. And the way the two-way is these days, like you can play basically an unlimited amount of regular season games. So it's like, why wouldn't we just bring you back on a two-way? Whereas Quinddary's thing is like, dude, I've proven myself. Like I deserve an opportunity And, I talked to him at length the other day in Vegas, and he's just like, you can tell he's a little frustrated. He's like, dude, I'm seeing all these other dudes who are not as good as me on 15-man rosters. I'm wondering what's wrong. Like, what else do I need to do? And, not only was he good in very limited minutes for Golden State last season, but he was dominant in the G League.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominant, very efficient, and he's great defensively. He's very good defensively. I'm not saying he's
I like him, man.
a 2-level defender, but he can help replace some of what you lost with GP2 there. And so you look at the free agent market right now, and I'm like, there aren't a lot of guys that are that interesting left, and they only have, assuming Andre Iguodala retires, which it's still weird to me that no news has come out about that. But
about who?
Andre Iguodala. Assuming
that is weird.
Assuming that Andre Iguodala retires and they sign Rollins to a 15-man roster, which it sounds like they're going to, they only have 12 guys on the 15-man roster right now. And they're probably going to enter the season with only 14 guys because they want to
save money. Yeah.
Ability. But that you still have 2 more roster spots to fill. And you look at the market out there, there's not a lot of guys I'd rather have than Quinndary Weatherspoon right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
I'm just like, I would just sign him to a minimum, give him a little pat on the back, be like, you deserve this.
Yeah.
Sign him to a minimum deal, and then use that 2-way on another guy. There's plenty of guys that they could put on that 2-way.
You're absolutely right. It is weird.
I've been pleasantly surprised by
Santos. Yeah.
I've been pleasantly surprised by him. To me, he's like the perfect draft and stash guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably at least a year or 2 away from being an NBA player, but he's skilled. He's athletic.
He's big.
He's big.
Big boy.
I like him a lot more than a guy like Quinones.
I'm with you, man.
But I do get the vibe that they would like, in an ideal world, that they would like those 2-way spots to be on guys who can actually help them. And Santos is probably still a year or 2 away. So my guess is what's probably going to happen is they're going to probably stash Santos, actually not in Brazil, but in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Because they still have his draft rights. So it's kind of an interesting situation because he won't be on an actual contract, but he'll just be a G League player, but they'll have his draft rights, and he'll be in the system, and they can monitor him. And I think that's a good situation.
Yeah, I forgot the name of that rule. They could technically do that with Patrick Baldwin Jr. as well, PBJ, who hasn't signed. I don't think he's NBA ready.
This round draft pick.
You can still do that though.
It's rare. Do that. It's very rare.
Yeah,
it's kind of just understood that first round picks get guaranteed contracts and second round picks don't. Yeah, they could. It's weird. I feel like no one's told me this, but it's almost like, at least in the immediate term, they're obviously higher on Rollins than they are on Baldwin. So it's just a funny situation because the guy who was your first round pick is not going to be as much of a factor this season as the guy who went 44th. Who
Agreed.
they, by
really
the way,
weird.
paid $2 million to go.
Yes.
Which,
dude, that's what I'm saying. Nothing's making sense.
Like when you look at how reluctant they have been to spend money, it's like kind of amazing that they're this high on this guy in the mid-second round, that they would feel the need to pay $2 million to go up and grab him. They did not pay close to that money to go up and grab Patrick McCaw in their mid-30s 2 years ago, to go up and grab Jordan Bell in the mid-30s.
You're right. Yes.
I actually hung out with spent some time with Rollins last night for a story I'm working on, and he's an interesting dude, and I really think that he's going to be a diamond in the rough guy. I watched a lot of his Toledo film. I totally understand why the Warriors are high on him.
Yeah.
Anyone who's judging that draft, just mentally think of him as the first round pick, because
fair. That's fair.
I feel more confident that he's going to be a factor for the Warriors than I do Baldwin. Which
again does beg the question: why did you draft PBJ? I don't. It's weird. I don't understand it. I don't understand a lot of what's happened this offseason.
I mean, PBJ, he was projected to go in the early second round. I mean, maybe they weren't confident they'd be able to get him. They only had
later on.
Yeah, I understand the PBJ pick because it's like it's the ultimate boomer bust. I mean, high risk, high reward, but at the end of the day, it is the 28th pick. No one's talking about Jacob Evans, like because it wasn't that big a deal that a 28th pick doesn't work out.
Yeah, and I see I see what the reward could be to have a 6'9", 6'10" guy who can shoot like that, but it's just, you're right, it's a risk, and he's not going to do anything now.
But I've heard that ankle issue was a big deal. He probably shouldn't have played at all last year.
Yeah, I've read that too. That's fair.
And so, I mean, if you take that, I mean, because everyone's judging him harshly off that season. And look, I understand. I mean, he was bad in the Horizon League. He was not good in the Horizon League, but he was clearly not physically right. So it's definitely worth taking a look.
No, I agree, man. I totally agree. But the whole unusualness, the whole puzzlement behind all these offseason moves leads to, of course, the Kevin Durant discussion. You and I were talking about this before we started recording. I've been saying for weeks now that, the tea leaves to me point to Durant coming back to the Warriors. I had Adam Armbrecht of Locked On Nets come on, and we basically deduced that outside of maybe the Pelicans, but I don't think Durant wants anything to do with going there, that the Warriors have the best package to offer to the Nets. I think even with the Pelicans, the Warriors have a better package, but they're the only ones that are in the same conversation. I think this is going to happen, man. Just because this is Lacob's white whale, this is, I've been repeating this endlessly, but it's true, man. Lacob, there's a reason why Lacob, after just 3 years, basically retired the man's number, reveres him, said nothing but amazing things about him, was legitimately depressed over losing Durant. And now he has a chance to bring him back on a 4-year deal so he can't escape on him again like he did last time. But you're telling me you don't think it's going to happen. Why do you think it's not going to happen? Your thoughts on that?
Several reasons. Look, I was in that locker room every day.
Yeah.
All 3 years he was there. And especially that final year, it was just it's really hard to imagine a world where he comes back because there was just so much animosity built up. There was so much tension. He has not kept in regular communication with the Warriors.
Correct.
He might send the occasional text here or there, but he's not close to anyone really in the Warriors organization. And I think that the biggest reason is I don't think that he could sacrifice his ego enough to do that move again, because it's kind of the ultimate concession of hey, I effed up. I shouldn't have left, and I don't see him being willing to do that. Can
I rebut here with two things?
Yeah.
One is, times have changed, clearly, right? So I 3 years ago, this was a player who people thought, was on LeBron's level, still maybe do on an individual basis. But since those 3 years, it's now been proven that he cannot carry a team on his own. He can't. The Kevin Durant does not have that it factor to be the alpha dog on a world championship team.
I guarantee you he doesn't think that.
It's fair. But he does care clearly about perception. And the perception this time would not be him jumping to the Warriors as a free agent. It'd be him reluctantly traded and accepting going back to the Warriors. And so that changes things a little bit. I don't think he has close friends anywhere in the NBA outside of Kyrie Irving. I don't know of anyone else in the NBA who calls
about their relationship at this point either.
And who knows about theirs, right? So he's just an enigma in this, and he's just kind of aloof. He's a weird guy. Clearly, he is definitely insecure. I wish he would just delete his Twitter account. I feel like 90% of all his psychological issues would just be gone if he just stopped looking at Twitter. But he, for some reason, is addicted to that damn thing. So, but I think ultimately, I'm looking at this as, if he comes back, if they make the trade, because he hasn't said no to it. There are reports. It's not speculated. It's actual reports out there that he's okay if the trade happens. Steph has not reached out to him, but Steph has said it's okay. He won't object to it. So no one's objecting to this thing. Discussions are ongoing. And ultimately, if Kevin Durant comes back, I do think the Warriors for the next 2-3 years are winning the title every year. They are the prime favorites. They're geared up to do this. And at the end, like, it's all these issues that were there before. Stephen Curry, for example, his legacy is now cemented. We don't have to worry about Kevin Durant stealing finals MVPs away from him. Kevin Durant, let's say, like, the Warriors win their 5th title, as with the core there, Kevin Durant could win a 3rd finals MVP. So he could be happy on his own little mantle where he's really worried about his legacy and stuff. And I don't think his legacy takes a hit at that point if he gets a 3rd, 4th, 5th finals MVP. That's an incredible achievement on its own. I think it can work out is what I'm trying to say. I hear what you're saying too about the discontent. On that note, here's another weird caveat. Draymond Green's a free agent after this year. Is there any possibility, let's say they're talking to Durant and Draymond Green's the issue. I don't know if it is. I don't think it is personally, but let's say that's the issue. They might not bring him back next year. Like, is there a world where you see Draymond Green not being re-signed by the Warriors next season?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think Draymond has just built up so much equity. I mean, they're gonna go down with the ship when it comes to those 3 guys. Steph, Draymond, and Clay. I mean, and the thing about Draymond is every time we count him out, he comes back and proves us wrong.
True.
I mean,
yeah.
I've been guilty of that. Like, at times, being like, he doesn't have it. Like, because everyone's just kind of waiting on his demise because guys like him tend to have a steep drop off. And it's like, okay, when's it coming? Oh, there it is. Oh, wait, never mind. And so, I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
The thing about Durant that's interesting is there is not a logical landing spot at this point. Not a truly obvious landing spot. It's clear that the market value for him is not what a lot of people anticipated it would be.
True.
And he's got to go somewhere. I mean, he's got to go somewhere. I mean, some people seem to think that he's just going to end up back in Brooklyn. It's going to be kind of like this awkward situation, but there's just not. You can't give him up for nothing, and you also the offers are not there that are commiserate with his value. So it's a tough situation for Sean to be in. Probably the most logical one would probably be the Suns, but it hasn't happened yet, and it hasn't happened for a reason. And then the one I would personally love to see, I think it'd be kind of cool, is him going back to OKC.
Yeah, I've heard that. I agree.
It would be kind of cool. And they have enough young guys, they could probably make it happen with the trade, but it's probably not going to happen. So it'll be
no. And don't you feel like that bridge was burned? Like, that's the difference between OKC and the Warriors. Is when he left OKC, they're burning his jersey. Yeah, like they're condemning him.
It's not going to happen. And I'll be curious to see what happens. But if you, in a hypothetical world, what trade do you think gets him to the Warriors? Like, who would the Warriors give up for him?
I think that what I think ultimately, and again, this is so much speculation, but it's just, look, man, I've been observing this front office intently for 10 years, and my prediction is that it'll be Wiggins clearly, and I think part of what's dragging this out so long is there's a lot of complicated pieces. First of all, you'd have to convince Wiggins to agree to a max extension. Because I don't think the Nets take him back for just a 1-year deal. So I'm guessing like they're going to negotiate an extension, send Wiggins. Wiseman will be part of this. And I don't think the Warriors are going to really care that much about losing Wiseman, in all honesty, even though I know Lacob's super high on him. Myers is super high on him. At the same time, it's like the money they're paying for him. If they really care about the dollars, which they seem to be indicating, he takes up a lot of money in that cap. So I think Wiseman goes. What's up?
Yeah, they have an option on Halloween Day for $12.1 million for 2022-20.
Right, and like, how do you stomach that? If you're worried, if you're not paying Gary Payton II, how do you stomach like a $12 million check for Wiseman next year, which is really what, like $50 million when you factor all the penalties? Yeah. So it's like, I'm looking at Wiggins, I'm looking at Wiseman. I think the Warriors, the extension for Jordan Poole is freaking them out a little bit. The fact that Lacob came out publicly on Kawakami's podcast and said, we can't afford Wiggins and Jordan Poole extensions. That was eye-opening to me. So I think, and again, who knows if this is games and shit, who knows if he's being genuine saying this, but look, so I think Jordan.
We learned a lot by them not re-signing GP2.
Yes, we did. Yes,
I
we
mean,
did.
we learned that the line is being drawn in
yes,
because that was always the question about Wiggins' future is like, are they willing to pay? And I was for a long time very much of the mind of like, there's just not a world where they can have him around long term. And then he goes off and is like their second best player in the playoffs and in the finals. Awesome. And it's like, you know, you start to wonder like, okay, maybe the thinking's changing here. Like maybe but the financial reality still is the financial reality. And if
you're
it's
absolutely right.
Poole and Wiggins long term, you know, a lot of people would say that's easy. I want Poole, right? To me, it's not that easy because people forget Wiggins is only what, 26?
27, yeah.
Yeah, like he's still very much in the heart of his prime.
Correct.
And, you know, I know Poole's 22, but like I just given the type of player that Poole is, I don't think he's ever going to be like necessarily like a perennial all-star guy.
Could be, but you're right. You don't know. We don't know. He might not be.
He has already overachieved, so I don't want to like underrate him anymore.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying too, man. But I follow you.
I could see him making like an all-star team or two in his career, but you know, it's and he's obviously not near the player that Wiggins is defensively. Suddenly Wiggins is like a great rebounder and is like a complete whereas I feel like in some ways someone like Poole is more replaceable. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, it would definitely be Poole if they had to pick between the two. They would pick Poole. To me, it's not that easy of a decision. You know, Poole had his points in the playoffs, but who was the second most important player on the Warriors in the playoffs?
It was Wiggins. Yeah. And so my prediction again is because feeding off what you said, Wiggins' value has never been higher. Jordan Poole's value is right now you could sell to the Nets. You're getting a cornerstone of your franchise with Jordan Poole. Whether or not that's true, you can sell that right now. He was a key piece on the world championship team, and he's young. I think Wiseman's included in this deal. I think the Warriors throw 2 or 3 first-round picks. And then the question is whether or not the Nets are going to demand. They're not going to get Moody and Kuminga. I think that's where it's going to be one or the other. And if you keep Kuminga, which I think if you keep either, I'm kind of happy. I think
keep Kuminga. You got to keep Kuminga.
I would agree with that. And so then let's say you
that's
trade.
Also part of why I'd be more willing to let go of Poole potentially, just because the timeline thing. Like Wiggins is kind of like the perfect bridge timing wise between this older generation and the younger generation. Whereas Poole is like, he's actually almost too young, you know, it's like, you know, by the time Poole's in his prime, Kuminga will be entering his prime too. And I think Kuminga is going to be a better player in this league.
Of course. Kuminga's ceiling is like Hall of Fame, dude. It really is. I mean, who knows if he gets there, but that's the ceiling. He could be that talented and that good. So that's my feeling is it's good. Those are the pieces that are going to move, but it's going to have to be a 3-team trade because Simmons can't stay there if you trade Wiggins. And so I think there's going to be a third team involved for Simmons. And then I think they're going to not only get Durant back, they're also going to get Seth Curry back. To stomach the loss of Jordan Poole, you also like match his shooting. You don't lose anything defensively. They're kind of like a swap there, even swap. And so with Seth, you still have the family thing going. You have the shooting.
We're going through all these like really complex scenarios. It's like, why is it even worth it? Like, why?
To do this trade?
Yeah, because here's the thing.
Because I'll tell you why. No, I'll tell you why, Connor, because Lacob loves Durant. Lacob wants Durant retiring as a Warrior. He wants to build a statue of Durant alongside Steph and Clay. I kid you, dude. I've heard this, and in the actions, I think really you define someone and what they could do based on their actions. To retire his number, to say the glowing things he was saying after Durant just rejected him and bailed. That's all. It's just Lacob wants Durant, man. I think it comes down to that. And as long as you're not giving up the world, and I don't think they are if they can keep Kuminga, I think they pull that trade, dude. I think that's my feeling on this. I could be wrong, but it's just every day that goes by, I'm just feeling more and more certain of it.
You won a title. You're going those young guys are going to be a year older. You've already accomplished something that's almost unheard of in that you've threaded the needle. You've won a title while developing the next generation. Don't mess with that. Just don't mess with it. You put together.
They already did though. They already did by getting rid of GP2, man. That was to me like the moment they did that started telling me like, I look for starters. I know they didn't value GP2.
GP2 at the end of the day, like you and I are both very high on GP2. Like
a lot of people are.
I covered him at Oregon State. Like I've known him forever. I'm very high on GP2, both as a player and as a person. But at the end of the day, he is still a role player. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money for a role player.
Fair.
Especially when you factor in, all the luxury tax implications. I mean, you're paying over $60 million a year for a role player. It's like, yes, he's a really good role player.
Yeah.
He's still a role player. Okay. So that's the practical reality of that. And it's like there is a delineation between like someone like a GP2 and even someone like a Jordan Poole,
Yeah.
That's what that comes down to. I know that they were not happy to let him leave. I actually know that GP2 is like, GP2 is not that he's unhappy in Portland, but I think he wishes that he could have stayed in Golden State, but you can't blame him. Like he's never really made money in his career. This is
good for him.
You have to go make that money, but I'm sure there's part of him that's like, man, GP2 or Golden State was such a perfect situation. Like I wish. I just don't understand why the Warriors didn't, at least in good faith, negotiate. Like you could have even like come in with like a 4-year deal. Like so I think the final deal for the Blazers was 3 years, $29 million. Like you could have come in and offered 4 years, 32. That would have been less of a cap hit each year.
They really had a very specific plan. They came in, they're like, here's the mid level. Here you go.
Yeah.
You can have the mid level or not. Oh no, okay, fine.
Yeah, good luck.
I thought they might offer Otto Porter the mid level. They didn't.
No. And that's another thing. Like, I don't think they're not stupid. I mean, they clearly realize that bench was a huge reason they won a world championship. And for them to basically just say, like, okay, thank you for your services. We're going to try and repeat without you now. I don't know. The moment they made that decision, something in my head was telling me there's a bigger play here that just hasn't happened yet. Because they're not pursuing
all GP2 in a lot of ways is not replaceable, but he is a role player, and the contributions of any role player can be replaced collectively. And, you really do have to invest in Kuminga and Moody at this point.
Yeah. You don't think it's too soon, though?
That's the silver lining
to
me of all this.
Connor, he's 19. Moody's 20. I mean, you think it's like now is the time?
Coach's Moody last night, and he reminded me that Kuminga was 19. For some reason, I thought he was 20. And he was like, no, he's 19 still. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for like months. He's not even 20 anytime soon. So I guess that's why it just seems weird to me. Like, it could be. When all said and done, you're absolutely right, man. Maybe like they just add one more free agent or maybe no more free agents. I mean, there's even that possibility. That might be the road they take. But my instincts.
They have to sign a couple more guys. You can't go.
But it could just be Rollins and it could be PBJ, right? They could just settle on just, they could even
I was in that 12-man thing. I was factoring in PBJ.
Oh, well, yeah, I hope they do.
And Rollins. So, they with Rollins and PBJ, they only have 12. It's so weird to me that Andre Iguodala has not told the Warriors what he's doing yet.
Or maybe he has, and we haven't heard, right? I mean,
my understanding is he hasn't, and they're just kind of leaving him alone, and they're going to give him basically until the season starts.
Why would you wait that long? I mean, that's an important roster spot. Like, did they not learn last year? Free agents do eventually sign with other teams, and the stockpile dwindles.
Here's the thing with Andre. It's like you putting pressure on him is not going to help you.
Right. But why even count on him? His body broke down last year. Like, why do you even think that he could play one more year?
If he comes to them and says, I want to be around next year, they're going to give him a roster spot just because of who he is. I mean, it'd be like a Udonis Haslem situation.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Where it's like, and I get that, but I also feel like given how many guys walked in free agency, they kind of need to at least be able to bank somewhat on the end of the roster guys, like at least hope for some minutes. I mean, I'm not saying that
Iguodala couldn't play at all, but I mean, he was completely unreliable this year.
Completely. So Connor, just to finish my prediction, here's the final phase of my prediction is once they make the KD trade, then they're going to add 2 or 3 more free agents because Kevin Durant automatically recruits free agents. Like he doesn't have to say a word. For some reason, free agents flock to LeBron and they flock to KD. And I think that's where they're going to finish the pieces off because there's still some names out there that they could add. That's my prediction, man. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, and you might be absolutely right. And who the F knows, right?
I mean, like the only thing that makes me think there's even like somewhat of a possibility is, like I said earlier, he has to go somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. And he doesn't want to stay in Brooklyn, man. He's made that very clear. Like, yeah. So that's what I think is going to happen. I could be 100% wrong, but we'll see. Dude, we've been talking for a long time. What's your plan, man? Are you going back out to summer league? Like, what's your Vegas itinerary for the rest of the day?
I've been here for like 5 days now. I'm desperate to get out of here. I'm basically I'm going to Vegas is like a 2 or 3 day city for me. Like I can't be here for more than 2 or 3 days. I haven't left my hotel outside of going to the arena the past couple of days just because I'm like, it's
115 degrees. Yeah, what would you leave anyway?
It's like I've done this trip in my life. Like I'm good. I'm heading to practice shortly. Gonna write a story. Have a sit down with Kuminga and his brother.
Nice.
Great that Kuminga's brother's on the summer league team.
I love that. I love that. Probably on the Santa Cruz team too, right? Is that what you would guess?
Very possible. Yeah. Possible. Yeah. Played at UNLV. Kind of just like a G League caliber player.
Right.
But, and then I'm heading home.
Nice, dude. And I hope to see you soon, man. Let's grab a beer. Dude, my journalism hero is Hunter S. Thompson. I love that man. Every time I find myself in Vegas, I always have just flashbacks to one of my favorite books ever, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So I know you're not having that kind of trip, but have fun. But have fun.
In my 30s now, I'm newly engaged. I'm
well, you know what's weird is his frivolity is rarely extended to the sexual side. The man just loved the party though, and he was just one of the greatest writers ever.
I'm talking about the partying too.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I love you, man. It's good to see you. It's been way too long, man. Let's get you back on soon. And again, you can follow Connor Letourneau on Twitter at @CON_CHRON. His articles are available at the San Francisco Chronicle. I have subscribed. I recommend you do the same. Great work as always, my man. You can follow me on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow and this program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Today's Thursday, so Kylan Mills will join me Friday. You two need to do a show together. I haven't had you two on simultaneously yet.
I'm a Kylan Mills fan. Yeah, I got to know her a little bit better during the finals. She's great.
Nice, dude. Yeah, she's great people, man. So are you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you, Connor. We'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone. Later.